Hi and welcome to Family Matters. One of my family's favourite movies is Father of the Bride, Part 1 and Part 2. It's a hilarious family movie, two of them with Steve Martin. And in the first movie he has to put up with the shocking thought of his daughter being in love with another man and getting married to him. And in the second movie, both his daughter, as expected, and his wife, completely unexpected, are pregnant. And typically for Hollywood, they both deliver on the same day. And there's a beautiful scene as Steve Martin, the father, receives the good news twice.
I'm a grandfather.
Mr. Banks? I have someone that I'd like you to meet. It's a girl.
I love girls. How's Nina?
She's excellent. She did beautifully.
My nuts was just the most beautiful baby ever born.
She's perfect.
It's a boy, it's a girl, it's a biological truth being proclaimed throughout the world every day. But in our brave new world, a simple statement like this is now under threat, even here in New Zealand. The Labour government has confirmed that it's going to prioritise a law change which will deem birth certificates meaningless and which will continue its pushing of a confusing gender ideology. This is all being done under the Births, Deaths, Marriages and Relationships Bill, which the government has committed to passing this year, likely with the vote of the Greens and possibly even the opposition National Party. There's two aspects to this proposal that should concern us. Firstly, the bill provides for each parent who is notifying the birth of a child to specify whether they wish to appear on the child's birth certificate as the child's mother, father, or parent. Isn't that a given? If you gave birth to the child, you're the mother. If you didn't give birth, you're the father. Mother, father. Pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, can the mother choose the label father? And why is parent even deemed necessary? Even if there's a non-gestational parent, that doesn't cancel, oh, now there's a dangerous word, cancel the biological mum or dad. But it seems you'll be able to choose your own gender as a parent. Now, we shouldn't be too surprised by the social engineering because it follows on from 2018 when the Department of Internal Affairs removed the need for fathers to even be recorded on birth certificates, also ignoring biological reality and rendering birth certificates as manipulated and misleading. And also, ironically, the select committee who have been considering this new law change is the same committee who attempted to remove husband and wife from marriage certificates during the same-sex marriage debate back in 2013. Now, at the time, we actually warned that if husband and wife was being cancelled, then mother and father would be next. And sadly, we are right. The cancel culture has actually been in action long before we realised, especially against anything to do with traditional family. The good news is that in that particular instance, we forced them to backtrack. But they don't give up, do they? Removing the biological father or the biological mother from a document that records biological history is wrong. Biology tells a story, but the state seems dead set to distort that story, and we should be concerned at that direction being taken. In fact, I even have this book here from the company that Dr. Seuss created, Beginner Books. This one is called Are You My Mother? Is this book even legal now? I checked it on Amazon just before I started recording this. It hasn't been cancelled yet. But what you can't destroy is biological truth. You need a male and a female to create a new life. Biology discriminates, and so should we if we want to tell the truth. The second aspect is that birth certificates will be based on the choice of the person, or self-identification as they call it. Now currently, if someone wants to legally change their gender on their birth certificate, Yes, you can already do this. They need approval from a doctor or a judge and with medical evidence of an actual sex change. It's reported that about 20 people go through this process each year. But as part of this new proposed change to a self-identification process, no medical evidence is required for the change, just self-identity. So they're going to remove all references to medical treatment, medical evidence, physical confirmation, and sexual reassignment, which were required previously to prove a physical sex change. It's all about making it easier to change your sex. The bill provides for an adult or someone as young as 16 years old to apply to register their nominated sex, which may be female, male, X, unspecified, or intersex. Now yes, intersex is a genuine medical diagnosis, a biological condition applying to a very, very small number of births, approximately 1 in 2,000. So let's just put that one aside. But X, unspecified, and choosing male or female based on feelings isn't biological. So a teen can apply to change the sex on their birth certificate to the opposite sex or to X, unspecified, with a written consent from the person's guardian. But what if one parent agrees and one doesn't? A case happening right now in Canada proves just how radical this could become. This was the one area that the National Party members actually expressed some concern. How do you determine the best interests of the teenager or the child? It's not defined in the proposed legislation. There's no test to determine whether the consequences of changing your sex are truly understood by the teenager. However, the National Party says they still don't want to stand in the way of these reforms. But even worse, the bill provides for a child younger than 16 for their parent to apply for the registration of the child's nominated sex. That's any child, 3, 4, 5, 9, any child up to 15 can choose. And again, it may be female, male, or X, unspecified. These younger children must confirm the change of their registered sex on turning 18. The law change will allow the birth certificate of a child or teen to be changed to the nominated sex simply through the application of the guardian, the parent. But it's well established today that the overwhelming majority of such children who experience gender dysphoria grow out of it by the time they reach puberty. It is not inborn. And thus the leading clinics seeing such children, such as those in Canada, the Netherlands, the UK, do not recommend parents and schools facilitate gender changes in such children. The push in culture today to embrace and affirm such children's wishes is founded more upon a political and parental ideology than it is in careful science and experience. This will lock children into transgenderism. Interestingly, the proposed legislation says you can reapply to revert to the sex recorded at birth. Perhaps the doctor got it right after all. It's disturbing that politicians want to ignore biological reality and in the process bring about confusion and ambiguity. But here's the key question in all of this. What is a birth certificate and what is its purpose? The Department of Internal Affairs website says a New Zealand birth certificate is an official document containing registered information about a person's birth as at the date of issue. The role of the birth certificate is also spelt out in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Article 7 states, "The child shall be registered immediately after birth and shall have the right from birth to a name, the right to acquire a nationality, and as far as possible, the right to know and be cared for by his or her parents." A birth certificate is a historical record based on fact. It's not a political tool to further an ideology. A government document should tell the truth. By choosing your own gender in your birth certificate, the certificates will become an object of unscientific gender ideology and effectively tell medical professionals that, hey, you got it wrong at the time of birth. Circumstances may change, but a historical document should not be able to be changed. The effect of this proposal would be to insert a biological lie. But the confusion is coming from the top. Here's what Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern recently said about these changes.
Do you support self-identification?
I think we need to make it easier, and I do think that that means taking into account the difference between, of course, gender and sex. So work does, I believe, needs to be done here, but we need to make it stick. And unfortunately, what we were being told by Crown Law is you could make this change and it could be open to challenge. I don't think anyone wants that. If you are going to make a change, you want to make it stick.
I suppose when it comes to self-identification, though, it's actually just making it possible for an individual to say, this is how I identify, and that's legally how they identify. So you support it going that far?
These are the kinds of things that I want to be able to canvass because
I know, but do you support that? You must consider
I
this.
do.
I'm sure you noticed that Jack Tame was keen to get the Prime Minister agreeing with him, but she said this, taking into account the difference between gender and sex. The difference between gender and sex? That's not what science says. A 2016 report which analysed over 200 peer-reviewed studies in the biological, psychological and social sciences concluded the belief that gender identity is an innate, fixed human property independent of biological sex, so that a person might be a man trapped in a woman's body or a woman trapped in a man's body is not supported by scientific evidence. Now, you would think that the National Council of Women would be able to figure this out and would speak up for women. Okay, think again, have a listen.
The National Council of Women, founded by Kate Shepherd herself in 1896, has thrown its support behind the trans community.
When we're talking about gender equality, we mean gender equality for everyone.
As one of the country's oldest women's organisations, the NCW says feminism can't pick and choose which women get to be involved.
We want a safe society for everyone where everybody's rights are upheld and where people can just live their lives respectfully. And, you know, that includes trans women. Trans women are women from our perspective.
Part of the reason that there has been a delay in this legislation is that New Zealand First used to be part of the government, and the then Minister Tracy Martin, who was overseeing this legislative change, was asking the right questions.
When individuals go to the family court at the moment and produce medical evidence, that is because their sex has actually changed. More often than not, that's exactly what that is. With the statutory declaration, what was being suggested was that that was no longer going to be part of the process. So their gender that they identify with would be recorded. That has implications downstream and creates questions that we don't know the answers to. For example, if a young person who had changed their gender through the statutory declaration from, let's just say, from male to female, went to a girls' school and wanted to enrol, what is the position of the girls' school?
How much of an impact is that really going to be?
Biological sex cannot just be nominated, as this proposed legislation suggests. It has significant flow-on effects in how we deal with issues relating specifically to women and to men. One submitter to the Select Committee considering this bill said this: "The idea that sex is something immaterial that can be nominated undermines all efforts to close a gender pay gap. The same will be true for discussions of violence against women. Women's safety and sovereignty in women's refuges, bathrooms, changing rooms, sports teams, representative positions, quotas, and all girls' schools are undermined by the concept of sex nomination. Sex nomination also allows men to undermine the accomplishments of female athletes and push back progress women have made in competitive sports. It allows young men to change entire girls' college and bathroom policies without any affected woman or girls being consulted. Most alarmingly, the concept of sex nomination has serious potential to enable male sex offenders to gain automatic access to women's prisons upon sentencing. Binary, which seems to be an objectionable word at the moment, binary is the only gender story there is amongst humanity when it comes to gender and sex distinction. There simply are not many genders. But of course, there are many different ways to be a healthy male or female without holding to narrow gender stereotypes. That gender and sexuality are apparently two distinct things is based on ideology, not objective science or any game-changing discovery. Human sexuality is a dichotomy, male and female. It's not a continuum. Now you may be saying, Bob, it's just a birth certificate. Does it really matter? Here's the reason we need to talk about this. These issues matter because they concern our understanding of fundamental human nature, who each of us are as male and female, and the kind of adult direction and support our children require, deserve, and receive from us. For politicians in the state to be manipulating birth certificates, and therefore our understanding of biology in these ways, is deeply concerning. Join us as we speak up for biological truth. Our children deserve it.